What's going on, guys? Christian here from CK Wraps. Today I'm going to be doing this video on how much your vinyl wrap should cost you, and I'm going to be going through 5 different variables here that weigh in on how much your vinyl wrap will cost. I'm going to be doing this from a DIY standpoint, and I'm going to be doing this from a consumer standpoint because I understand that there are those of you out there who want to do this for yourselves, and I also understand that there are people out there who want to have a shop do it for them and don't want to invest the time and the effort into doing this. Hey, it's fun to do it yourself. And if you guys are looking to do it yourself, check out my website, ckwraps.com. I'll put a link in the top corner and the description below for you guys, where you can find extremely detailed 4K point of view videos, beginner 101 section, business 101 section, open forum discussion board where you can ask me questions directly. So if you guys are looking for answers, I'll answer them there for you. I can't answer them all on YouTube, it's impossible. But anyways, that's there. Again, top corner, the description below, it's all there for you. Now, when it comes to wrapping a car, it's not as simple as like saying that's a car and I'm gonna wrap it. So we're going to be very specific here as far as these variables go and these 5 variables go. I'm going to start off with number 1. Number 1 is the car behind me is a car, yes, but is not the same size car as, let's say, a 4-door car. Okay, so let's envision a Toyota Camry. I'll put a picture up there for you guys just so you can envision that, or don't have to envision it. The Toyota Camry has 4 doors, which means we have a larger surface area. So which means we usually have more square footage. On top of that, the 4-door Camry has paint matched roof, shark fin antenna, and so forth. So there's a lot going on as far as the square footage goes, as far as the wrap goes. But this car behind me is small. It's 2 doors. It has a gloss black roof already, which most people decide to leave black. And this right here in itself is a variable, okay? So we're quoting the car based off of the size and the amount that we need to wrap. That's important to know because the more we need to wrap as far as square footage goes, the more time we're going to spend wrapping it. Now, when you're spending time wrapping it, this equates into dollars, okay? So when you're charging, as far as a DIY goes, you're going to equate that into your labor cost. As far as a consumer standpoint goes, you're going to be, the shop is going to tell you, okay, it's going to take this long and this many hours to wrap your car. Then you start to understand how much it's going to cost you as far as the labor goes. That's not the only thing. So we have to move on to the other 4 variables here. Another variable here, let's get into variable number 2. What details are on the car? This car itself doesn't have a lot of details. You know, I did do some stuff, you know, the lower rocker panel on the side here, wrapped that in gloss black. That was naturally white, so that little piece on that's gloss black now. Some of the front section there, over there, the front lip and the pieces where the front grille is, did do some of that in gloss black as well. So these are, because they're paint matched white, so these are details. I would consider those details. Wrapping a door and a fender and flat areas like a hood and stuff like that are quite simple, okay? And basically wrapping large flat panels is quite simple. When you get into detailed work, like the hood vents, those have to be wrapped on this car. The lower rocker panel here where that little splitter is, the front splitter, the little canards in between the front grille and so forth, then we start to add in time. And so obviously this is again adding into the labor, okay? So we get let's say a base quote of $20 an hour for labor. Now all of a sudden we add in another $10 an hour because of the extra labor, or just adding on more hours, whatever it is. So we added on more hours because of the extra details. Now the more details that the car has, or if the car has more details on it, the more time it's going to take to wrap these things. Not only that, it's going to take time to disassemble and prepare these areas. So labor, again, goes up. This car is not all that difficult, but it's not all that easy. I would say it's somewhere in the middle as far as the details go. The time spent doing this and doing those details is going to be higher than a car that's much more flat and simple. I'll put a picture up there of a car that's, in my opinion, simple and easy to wrap, like a Tesla. Teslas are very easy and terribly easy to wrap compared to other cars. Let's get into variable number 3. what is the base color of the car? The base color of this car right here is white, okay? So if this customer wants a red wrap or anything that's basically not white, it's going to be more work. Why, you say? Why? Why is it going to be more work? Because we have to make sure, and truly make sure, that we get around all these edges and all these corners and all these areas that are visible from the exterior. For example, the area down here between the hood and the pillar, this area, the white is going to run straight down in there. So we want to make sure that we wrap as far into that area as possible. On top of that, the door. In the door jamb, well, this one has a rubber seal inside there. So the rubber seal, it makes things a little bit easier, okay? Most cars are not like this where they have a rubber seal in there. This one does. But if it didn't have a rubber seal in there, then we're going to have to wrap in to a certain amount to make sure that we cannot see the white through this area. The color of the vehicle is very important because you don't want to be charging, let's say the customer has a black car, you don't want to be, and they're wrapping it black even, which is like the lowest price point possible for the most part. If they have a black car and you're wrapping it black, then wrapping into those areas is just extra work that you don't necessarily need to do because you can't see it. So this is, again, think about it in the end, this is a visual aesthetic. Whether it's a DIY standpoint or a consumer standpoint, you want to make sure that, you know, we're getting everything covered as much as possible from exterior visual, okay? If we can see white through cracks and through crevices and areas like that, then it's not a great job. You know, you want to make sure that when you're installing yourself, that the wrap is covering those areas. And you also want to make sure as a consumer, when you pick up your vehicle from the shop, that they didn't just cut it off and say, okay, now I can see white through my door cracks, like on the back side here, or between the fender and the quarter panel, or around the gas cap door, or wherever. There's many areas. There's some areas we can't do anything about unless we remove the doors, which is between the front door and the front fender. If we remove the door, then we can wrap behind there. We get into a whole different spectrum of pricing as far as that goes. So it can be done, it's just how much do you want to pay. Now, let's get into variable number 4. Your brand of material is very important here because you have to decide you have to choose what is best for this application. There's many different brands in the market these days. There are, I don't know, a solid 10, you know. There's, some would say less because, you know, they don't like to use other brands. Some would say there's like 3 brands on the market that are great, you know. So I would say there's about 8 to 10 brands on the market that you could use that are safe for the paint. They're not going to hurt the paint. It's going to be fine removing down the road, and it's going to last. You know, you want to make sure that the wrap doesn't fade out. Anything can happen, but you want to make sure the wrap doesn't fade out or peel off. It's never going to blow away in the wind. I don't care how junky the brand is, but it's never going to blow away in the wind. You just mainly want to make sure it doesn't fade, bubble, or lift. You know, these are the things that can happen with a wrap. Now, choosing a brand is very important because the brands that are out there on the market are going to price their films differently. I can buy, let's say we put gloss black, which gloss black is the most common color. We put gloss black across the board amongst the 10 brands. I can buy gloss black for as high as $1,200 a roll. I can buy gloss black for as low as $400 or $500 a roll. Pricing, okay, based off of the brands. Is the gloss black much better at $1,200 a roll versus the $400 a roll or $500 a roll? I don't know. I do know, but I'm not going to get into that right now with you guys. It's just that you have to make sure that you're pricing the job accordingly. So as a consumer, when you're looking through different materials and you're trying to figure out, hey, you know, I like that color there, and that's maybe a color from a brand that ends up being more expensive, or, you know, it can happen. And it's not the same. Like I said, you know, I don't want to throw out brands here, okay? I'm not gonna throw anyone under the bus. I'm just saying I don't want to throw out some brands here. So we just have a bunch of brands, and these brands have materials that are pretty much alike. They install very similarly, they look very similar, there's not a lot of difference here. It's just branding and quality also on top of that. Quality obviously is very important, and you want as a DIYer or someone who's starting a shop, for your customer to have the best quality wrap. And as a consumer, you also want to have the best quality wrap. I can do a separate video on the best quality wraps, in my opinion. Now, that's again variable number 4, because the pricing structure of the brands varies quite a lot. It can go as far as double the price or even more. Like I said, $400 or $500 a roll for the same color of gloss black to $1,200 a roll for the same color of gloss black. Again, that depends on the brand that you choose. As the DIYer or / shop versus the consumer. It's going to add on to the price or take away from the price when it comes to quoting this wrap job. Let's say I want to wrap this car in gloss black. I can wrap this car in gloss black, let's say for $3,000. You know, a lot of you out there are like, oh my God, I can paint my job for $3,000. I can paint my car for $3,000. Yeah, I can paint your car for $40 with rattle cans too. Anyways, I can wrap this car for $3,000 in gloss black, for the lowest priced gloss black. I can also wrap it for an extra $700 or $800 more using the most expensive gloss black. Okay, so the pricing there, the structure is going to vary. You have to understand that on a consumer standpoint and the DIY / new business owner, whatever, shop standpoint. You have to understand the pricing structure as far as the wraps go, because they're not the same. They're not the same in pricing. Now let's get into the 5th variable. The 5th variable is the finish of the material. A lot of you are going to be out there, professional shops, and like, there's more variables than that. Yeah, I feel like I've touched on the major ones, but there could be some more variables there. Again, I've done other videos where there are more variables. Let's get into the 5th variable. That is the finish of the material. Okay, we got into cost of material. Now there's finishes. So we have, again, gloss black. We're just going to use that as a basis because it's just gloss black, and every brand has gloss black. Let's get into pearl white, satin pearl white. A lot of brands actually carry a satin pearl white. I would say most do. Not all, but most. So we can get into that. The finish changes from gloss to satin. This will either up the price or lower the price, depends. We also get into metallic flakes. So let's say we have gloss black and then we have gloss black with a crazy metallic in it. Most likely, so this is going to kind of play into variable number 4 here, but most likely the gloss black with the metallic flake in it is going to cost more, because it costs more to produce the film. That film that has more flake in it, it can't possibly cost the same to make. In some cases it can, but it can't possibly cost the same to make as the solid gloss black. There's just more in it. You should understand that from the DIY standpoint / shop, also with the consumer standpoint. You understand that when you go from a solid color to a metallic or a pearl, that this pricing is going to change. For example, color shifting or color flipping or whatever you want to call it, color flowing films, the ones that shift color as you move around them. Those are priced in a tier along the lines of, let's say, brushed metals and carbon fibers. But again, you can get these materials within a $500 to $700 or $800 price range. So depending on the brand you choose. That's why I'm saying I'm kind of touching into variable number 4 here. The finish of the material will also determine how difficult it is to install. When it comes to dry carbon fiber, nobody's going to really wrap their car in dry carbon fiber, not the whole car, but it's actually quite hard to use. And if you stretch that vinyl too much in the wrong direction, it's game over. It ruins the texture and the pattern, and it actually makes the vehicle look like it has dents in it. Same with brushed metal. Brushed metallic films are very hard to use. Like, if you don't know what you're doing when you get into wrapping or with a brushed metallic film or brushed metal film, you're going to have a hard time with it because your panels are going to look like they have dents in them. So these play in again to the role of how much the vinyl wrap is going to cost. As we get into more challenging vinyls with different finishes, the price again goes up. As the DIYer / shop, you have a pricing structure which gives you the base price, basically the lowest price that you're going to charge for the most simple wrap there is. And then you build off of that, okay? What brand did they choose? So as a DIYer / shop, you basically say, okay, I have this car right here. It's the most simple car in the world. You think of something, or you find something online, maybe you've wrapped one before, and you wrap it in the easiest vinyl there is to use / cheapest, whatever it is. And you take that as the lowest point. Then you build off of that. So then we get into a different brand, let's say a gloss black, and then we add on the cost. This is how you price it out when you're a DIYer / shop. When you're a consumer, you have to understand that depending on the brand that you choose, you're going to be paying more or less, and the finish on top of that. And as a shop on this side over here, and as the consumer on this side over here, the shop will or should be educating you on why these things or why these prices vary. If they don't know what they're talking about, then you should go somewhere else. I'm not gonna lie. This is what this video is for, is to teach everyone from both sides. But definitely, if they don't know what they're talking about, I would go somewhere else. If it doesn't seem very structured, if you're asking questions and they don't have the answers to, or they just seem like they're throwing them out of thin air, then, or pulling them out of thin air, then you should go somewhere else. I'm not gonna lie, as a consumer, I want you to have the best possible wrap there is, because there's enough bad wrap jobs already out there, and it's not just, doesn't just come down to that, but there are obviously other variables there on the consumer side of things. But I do want you guys to have the best wrap possible. I understand that you don't want to wrap a car yourself, and finding a shop that can do the quality work that you want them to do is very important. Now, as a DIYer or a shop, you should be talking to your customer and educating them on the questions that they have to ask, because if you don't have those answers, then you're going to lose the business, because I just told them to leave. You're most likely lose the business, because not everybody is that clueless. You know, they're going to see through it, and they're going to say, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else because I don't feel like I can trust this place or this shop. It doesn't matter where you wrap your car out of. I'm talking about DIYers right now. It doesn't matter where you wrap your car out of. If you are educated and you know what you're doing, space is a space. You know, I have a nice clean space in here, keep it clean, whatever. It's just a space. It's a box, keeps me and the car inside of it, and I can wrap cars in here. So as far as that goes, I wouldn't necessarily look for the as far as the consumer side of things goes, I wouldn't necessarily look for the snazziest, most fancy place there is. Yes, that can speak to a certain point, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily reflect on the work that's being put out of the shop. It says that they have money. What does that really mean? People can get money from all over the place. So think about that for a second on a consumer standpoint. Now, let's keep going with variable number 5 here, because there's also a little bit more. Now, with even more difficult finishes like chrome, we still get into variable number 4 and variable number 5, because chrome is a very expensive material. It's the most expensive material there is, and it's also the most difficult material there is to use. And if you're doing it alone, it's almost impossible. I do it alone, but I've been doing it alone for a very long time, or for as long as possible, pretty much. But I would definitely recommend having hands to help as far as DIY or / shop goes. And a consumer standpoint, when you're looking at a chrome wrap job, you're probably looking at a minimum of $7,000. Not gonna lie, you're looking at a minimum of $7,000. And at a regular wrap, let's say you want to wrap this car, or the most basic car, from white to gloss black, or from gloss black to satin black, I would say on the lowest side of things, you could probably get a wrap for $1,500, and it can probably be pretty good, because I used to charge that too, and I used to put out pretty good wraps. So I'm not gonna lie, you have to do your research, and you have to find who's going to be the right fit for you on a consumer standpoint. As a DIY standpoint, you can charge $1,500 or whatever and make some money, maybe it's a side hustle or whatever, and still put out good quality work. The important part is, on the DIY / shop standpoint, is that you need to take pride in the job that you do, and then the consumer has to understand that you take pride in the work and the job that you do. We're not perfect. Mistakes happen all the time. If you guys want to see more mistake videos, again, they're on my website. I post up whatever mistakes that I make, even full, not a full car, but other cars. There's cars on there where, you know, they're very expensive cars and I've made mistakes, not necessarily made mistakes, it just happens, something's happened with the material, whatever. We all make mistakes and things happen, and it's up to us on the shop side / DIY side to correct these problems. Don't leave the consumer hanging or the customer hanging, because it's not their fault and it might not be your fault, but you're the only person that can fix the problem. They can't do it, and they paid you for something to begin with. These things are very important. These things that I live by and I swear by every day. Again, so finishes are basically the last variable here, and it's important to know what you're getting yourself into when you're getting into those really hard finishes like chrome, even brushed metal. It's very hard to use, even color shifting films, and again, like even some 3M colors like gloss fierce fuchsia, for example. If you stretch that a little bit too much, like a little bit, it loses color. So we can consider all these variables into quoting the vehicle wrap. Now let's get down to the actual price of the vehicle wraps. I start my pricing. I'll tell you where I start my pricing. Personally speaking, $2,500. Okay? This is accounting for the most simple car and the material costing around $600 to $700 per roll. That's what I'm accounting for. Now, as I build from there, I'm going to be adding on prices, okay? I have been doing this for long enough where I know generally know how much time or more time it's going to take me to wrap extra details. This is up to you as a shop and as a DIYer quoting a job like that to understand roughly how long it's going to take you to wrap this based off of your previous experiences. Now, when I wrap a car, like I said, $2,500, that's the base price coming in the door. I pretty much never have a customer pay $2,500. It's almost never that. There are a lot of variables that, again, weigh in on this. I've done wraps that cost almost $14,000. I've quoted wraps for $14,000, $15,000, $16,000. Why? Half you're out there like, oh my God, that's madness. I can get my car repainted for $16,000. Let's put it this way, and I'm going to be doing a separate video on wrap versus paint, but let's put it this way. Someone just bought a $600,000 Lamborghini. Lamborghini doesn't make it in the color that they want. So what do? They buy the $600,000 Lamborghini, they're gonna go get it painted somewhere else? Pfft, good luck selling that car. That car will lose 80 to 100 grand right off the bat. I guarantee it. I don't care if you paid 80 grand for the paint job. You're gonna buy a car for $600,000 and then paint it? That's unreasonable. It's unfathomable to even do that. I don't care who the painter is. It could be Picasso, it could be Michelangelo, it doesn't matter. The paint job, and obviously they don't paint cars, I'm just saying as far as skill level goes. The fact that you've painted a car is going to depreciate the value automatically. There are situations where paint makes sense. There are many situations where paint does not make sense. There's obviously a massive difference here, and I want to explain in detail what these differences are and why you paint and why you wrap. That's basically it. Guys, I hope this video was informative, detailed, and helpful for you. Again, I'm looking forward to doing more videos for you. Don't forget to turn on notifications, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Take care.